Hey Reefers, welcome back. Okay, so today we're going to look at fragging torch coral. Now, once again, we're going to be using the Gryphon saw. We're going to be using Aquaforest frag rock. Okay, what I like about these is they got a very big base and it allows the coral to be placed somewhere and actually grow and start branching. So that's sort of what it looks like. It's also great for SPS as well. They've got a nice little indentation there as well. And like I say, it's a great sturdy base, can be wedged in somewhere or stuck down with putty onto somewhere if you're going to be putting something permanently. But if it's going, for example, in a frag system or like a shop coral tank, and it had to sit there for a while, or like I say, in a frag system and you're planning on growing it, this base is sturdy enough for it to actually grow quite a few heads and branch out quite nicely. So once again, we're going to do our technique where we soak these. Okay, the frags that I'm going to be doing, it's a one colony with 5 heads and a colony with 2 heads. It's going to be fragged all into singles. So I need to pre-soak 7 plugs. Doesn't look like I'm going to be winning here. My container's too small. Let's use this one. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's grab some tank water. And pre-soak these. Okay, we'll get back to those when we're ready to put them on plugs. Okay, I've got my iodine dip ready to go. Saws all set up with iodine dip inside as well, with 1 liter of water like we did in our first video with the Lobo. If you haven't seen that video, you can go back and check it out. I'll leave a card on screen now. It's quite an interesting video as we go more in depth in setting up the saw and putting the iodine dip in. Let's get to the fragging. We're going to start with the 5 head. This is a Australian, they call it purple stem with grey tips. Very fancy name, but yeah. And there are ways to frag this without using the saw. But the way I find it is when you actually, if you're going to use like bone cutters and they're too close to the head, you risk the chance of, see, there was one of my snails from the coral system. You risk the chance of actually splitting the head. And also with the saw, you can take that and cut it because the saw is that fine. It's not a very thick blade. And you could actually split those 2 heads into individuals or keep them if you want to. Yeah, so I think I'm going to split them all into single heads. So let's get to cutting. So I'm going to take that piece there off first because it'll be the easiest. Try and get these guys to close a little bit more. I'll battle with this one. There we go. Yeah, 2 single heads. Only thing you got to watch out for is that the tentacles don't go into the saw blade too much. It's not a bad thing if it happens, so just something to watch out for. Okay, so that's the 5 heads there. Now the iodine dip, the reason we use it is it's just to make sure that we don't get any infection after cutting. Just to clean it out, and once it's clean, the chances of infection are a lot less. Okay, so let's grab the last one. This one here is a orange tip with a green base. Very nice piece this, and I'm definitely going to cut that into two individual heads. Okay, so that was short and sweet. So now let's get sticking. Okay, so because it was so quick to cut it, it was only 7 heads that we cut. I'm gonna leave them in the dip while we do the sticking to the plugs. I'll just give them a little bit extra time in the dip. So let's move that one side. Let's bring our handy little drip tray. Okay, for these here, I'm going to do them one at a time, because the issue with this is if I leave that on this plug, it's very porous and the glue starts to seep in. What I like to do with these plugs sometimes is, depending on if there's a cavity somewhere which could be filled, there's a lot of gravel that breaks off with transporting these things, and so that's inside the bag, and I take that and I apply the same method we use for sticking our rocks together with super glue. So I get most of it stuck, and then I'll just go over and throw some of that aragonite or whatever this is made from into the little gaps, and just throw some super glue over it just to give it a better bond. So just try and get it to fit into that little cavity as best you can get it, and any gaps you can fit the super glue in, just go for it. Last piece. See, these are quite large heads. So these bigger bases, when they do open up and sway around in the current, and they don't have little holes to go into the egg crate themselves, they create a great sturdy base for the coral. So let's take some of this gravel out. Making a lacquer mess here. Let's take some of that gravel, put it into the little gaps. There's still quite a bit of super glue in there as well. That just helps create a little bit more support. Doesn't have to be in all the gaps, just some of the gaps, and just throw some super glue over it. There we go. So all those little gaps are full. And all I'm going to do is like we did last time, take some water, fill the turkey baster, and just go over the coral to make sure that the super glue creates a skin over itself and any excess super glue goes straight into the tray at the bottom. And this also just helps speed up the activation of the super glue. Okay, and there you have it. There's nice 7 heads of torch, individual heads. That one's actually splitting, going to be 2 soon. And there we go. Guys, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in our next video.